Welcome to Stargate SG-1. For the first time, still not a Star Trek podcast. My name is Jeff Akin, and I'm watching Stargate SG-1 for the first time.
And I'm Brent Allen, and I'm watching Stargate SG-1 for the 47th time. But for the first time, I am watching this episode specifically trying to dig out those sci-fi messages that are contained within. You know, those things that sci-fi does really well, like holding up a mirror to society or giving us hope that things can be better in the future, or just telling us how we can be better to each other as human beings.
This week, Brent, we're watching Secrets.
Yes.
And last week, I had an incredible prediction that I'm positive is going to come true. I just don't remember what it was. So if you need a reminder to that, last week we put out Family. It was an excellent, epic episode. Go listen to it again. You'll hear my prediction.
See, I know what your prediction for Family was. Which is, you said it's going to be the first look at Sha're since Children of the Gods. It's going to be all about the Jackson family. I honestly don't remember what you said Secrets was going to be.
I bet it had something to do with Sha're, because I remember at one point you're like, stick on the Sha're thing. Make that your thing.
Just stay with Sha're until it happens, right? Yeah.
So we'll say that. In the meantime, though, before we dive in, Brent, why don't you give us any details on Secrets?
Oh, Jeff, I have so many details on this, but I'm going to keep them all secret until after you have seen the episode.
Oh, I see what you did there.
But a few that aren't secret, this is episode 9 of season 2, and the original air date was August 21st, 1998. That's all I'm going to say before we watch the episode.
All right. It's a secret.
So with that, Jeff, then why don't we go ahead and watch the episode? Because you want to watch it. I want to watch it. If you folks out there are joining us for the first time, here's how this works. Jeff has never seen the episode. I've never watched it for these things. And we are going to go watch it for the first time right now. Like absolutely right now. And if you're joining us on YouTube, you're going to get to stay with us and you're going to have the reaction video. Our friends on Patreon get the full unedited side. So you guys can head over to patreon.com/Babylon5 first, or check the show notes for updated Patreon things, because when this goes out versus when we're recording is not going to be synced up at all. So
if you're listening on a podcasting app, you're about to gate into the future where we'll be waiting for you with my first time reactions and Brent's sci-fi messages, if he found any. I'm excited to both see this episode and hear what the lessons are in it. Brent, let's dive in.
Chevron 7 locked.
all right, Jeff, first of all, welcome back to all of our audio podcast listeners who have just jumped with us into the future. Jeff, we have just watched 30 seconds ago, finished watching this episode, Secrets. You have the floor, my friend. Pontificate.
Sha're, baby. Sha're!
Hey, you've been calling it since Children of the Gods. You were just way off on when it would actually happen.
Hey, you know what? I knew it was going to happen in the series at some point. What a great episode, man. Like, in season 1, I was iffy on a lot of the Gould episodes. You know, like they were okay, you know, kind of whatever, but this was great. I think the biggest takeaway, I have 2 big takeaways. There's a lot of little things, but the big takeaway is, holy crud, a lot of the host lives on in the Gould.
Yeah.
I think up till now I wasn't sure, you know, like, and they weren't sure. That's the thing they talked about a couple times, but the fact that Amonette, the Gould in Sha're, was asleep while she was pregnant, and she was fully present, and then talking about how, like, she's been watching all this stuff happen, you know, like she's just this unwilling participant. It makes me think of, you know, people like Apophis and Har who are here, and, you know, they've been around a long time. They've done a lot of horrible things, and that host is just watching the whole time. There's a great scene where Daniel finally breaks down he's got some pretty strong prejudices, right? Like he sees Sha're, but all he actually sees is the Gould, and he attacks her, you know, verbally, won't really engage with her, and it takes Tilk in an amazing scene of great friendship being like, dude, go be with your wife, my man. Like, come on, go do it.
Yeah.
He does. It's a cool scene. And I thought it was great. You know, we talked about it during the episode. The actors there, Michael Shanks and the Sha're actor, are actually husband and wife. And it showed what a touching embrace and the stare and everything. But what I loved about it, again, Michael Shanks with the unbelievably great facial acting, that look of love, but also like compassionate fear and sorrow for knowing what Sha're is experiencing, like that suffering. Oh, and he's powerless. That's got to feel horrible. My other big takeaway, and this is a guess, there's this whole storyline in here where Armin Shimmerman was a journalist.
I love that they use that name. I really do.
It's so like, poop, right there.
Yeah.
But this journalist comes out of nowhere and he knows basically everything about the Stargate program. He knows the SG teams. He knows that the Stargate can take you, off to other places. And he's trying to get a word from O'Neill, who is epically good. So good at being like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, man. Like, doesn't even. In fact, if I was a buddy or a partner or something with Robert Dean Anderson and I watched that whole sequence, I would never trust him in real life.
Right.
Like, if you can lie about the lie and the story and it's all totally believable, I can't trust you. But dude gets hit, the journalist gets hit by a car out of the blue, and he's laying there and his last words are, "It was you son of a," and then he dies. I think there's a big, high-level conspiracy at work here. I'm guessing Senator Kinsey somehow involved in this whole thing, facilitating the leak, getting rid of the reporter, some stuff. The way Jack was really shocked by that death, by the dude getting hit by a car, and Hammond just told him, he's like, dude, you're good. You did nothing wrong. It was a weird mistake. And O'Neill's, he's a soldier. He knows what's up. He's like, yes, sir. But that just had that stink to me of like, oh, this is going to be a thing. It's going to go on for a while. We got to see Sam's dad. Sam's dad has lymphoma. He's going to die. Pretty sad. What's really sad is he's got a couple months left, and neither one of them could resist taking jabs at the other one.
It's true.
It's sad to see.
I got to tell you, though, I have always been on Sam's side when watching this, because Jacob is pushy. He doesn't know what's going on. Like we know what Sam is doing is so much better than flying on a space shuttle.
Right. Go orbit the Earth.
The orbit. Yeah. Like, you're not even going to the moon these days. You're just going up to orbit. The ISS. That's about it. Like, that's all you're really doing right now. Her job is so much cooler. Always there's no way she can tell him. She can't even intimate anything about what's happening. I get it. But the way she completely blows off her dad, I've never seen it until this watch through, of like, she's awful to her dad. Like, he's sitting here like trying to be touching, and he's reached out. He's done something for her. And maybe he should have asked. Yes, he doesn't know what he's doing, but where I come from, it's about the thought. It's not about the gift. And he's trying to reach out, and you just crapped all over it. And then you turn around and said, "Oh, I knew you were going to make it about you." And clearly they have some history together.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Before we gate into the rest of this episode, did you know you're missing most of the content from this podcast? Stargate SG-1 for the first time has an active and exciting Patreon that you can join right now by clicking the link in the show notes. Not only will you get access to the full, unedited podcast and reaction videos, you'll also be able to join a growing, vibrant, maybe even an intergalactic community. Subscribers even get access to all of our content from Babylon 5 for the first time. Don't miss out on this content and the amazing people. Just click the link in the show notes. Tilk thinks you should do it right now.
Indeed.
I think if you break that whole scene down, like, first she's like, "I don't want this," and then he like concedes a little bit. He's like, "Just go talk to him. Like, just talk to him." Then she flips it. "Oh, now you're making it all about you." And it's like, literally, you say, "Yeah, I don't want that." That's totally fine. You can have your boundaries. You don't have to accept everything your parents give you. But when he's like, "Look, will you talk to him?" "Yeah, Dad, sure. I'll talk to him."
And that said, I just want to acknowledge that Sam also is an adult and a person of agency. And yeah, he should have talked to her and said, "Sam, I have this opportunity. Would you like me to do this?" Her dad should have said that for her. I don't want to take that away from Sam or from the character, but like, families are tough, man.
I totally agree. And I also think that he did everything with positive intent and based on what he knew of her. But the one piece he knows that he should have acknowledged more is that he knows she's in a secret program, right? His whole thing, like, hey, your cover story's pretty lame, but still, like, he knows his daughter from before when she was younger, and based on that person and those dreams, he went and flexed his big general muscles and made something happen. I think the least, literally the least that deserves is a, hey, thanks, Dad, but nah.
And hey, also, I wouldn't mind seeing my little girl go to outer space, which has been the thing she's talked about nonstop since she was a little girl. I would love to see her fulfill that. I think it is natural. So we both have young children.
Mm-hmm.
We both have daughters about the same age. Let me ask you, Jeff, is there a part of you that would eventually like to maybe be a grandfather?
Oh yeah.
Like, is there anything wrong with that? I wouldn't, but something's going to happen eventually. Like, it comes for us all, right? Like, it's going to happen eventually. It's just a matter of when.
Uh-huh.
I would like to live and chances are you will. Like, it's a possibility, maybe not. Maybe I would like to see, would I like to see my great-grandchild? That'd be like, I think that's an appropriate thing for a parent to be like, yeah, there are some dreams that I have, and there are some pieces I have here. The way he turns around and clams up and just is like, oh, well, you don't want it. And now I'm going to shut this off. Like, that's not cool. He needs to handle that kind of stuff better himself.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, he and Sam are cut from the same cloth. This is a relationship that I guarantee you the writer probably has with their own father. It's written so.
He's got a couple months to live with the lymphoma, so I imagine this isn't the last we're going to see of him or this relationship. There's, I like though how they did it. He's like, hey, I got a couple months left, which says, hey, I might show up again. But then he says, so don't rush to check on me tomorrow or anything, meaning it could be next season that you see me again. If you do.
If we do. Or there could just be the, hey, Sam, I got a phone call. Your dad just passed away. And then we see her at the funeral.
Could be all kinds of things. It'll be cool to see what happens, but I'm sure we'll hear about him again. I have a lot of notes, but it's all story and plot stuff. There's a lot of that in this one.
Jeff, did you recognize her father?
No.
I didn't think you would. I did not think you would.
Is he the other Babylon 5 guy?
He is. I'm going to give you a second to rack your brain, because when we saw this person in Babylon 5, I freaked out and was like, oh, it's this guy. It's Jacob from SG1. You had no clue what I was talking about. Our folks at Patreon, the folks on YouTube, everybody's commenting about it. I'm like, I know. And Jeff has no idea who we're talking about. Here it is. You want me to tell you who he was?
Yeah, because I keep thinking of that home guard guy with the scar, but that's a real scar he has, so I know it's not him.
Go back to season 2, the episode Knives. Londo's friend, Urza, whatever, that he had to shank.
Oh my gosh.
That's him. You saw this dude with the Centauri head fan last time.
And playing, like, that was the one too. I'm like, he's basically playing like they're playing two old Lebanese dudes. And wow, yeah, I can totally see it in the eyes. I can totally see it.
Yeah, Carmen, I'm going to butcher his last name. Agenziano.
Yeah, I think we even said it when we talked about Knives and couldn't pronounce it.
Yes.
Good episode. Really enjoyed this thing. Got a lot out of it. And I think what's kind of cool is like we're seeing a lot of these feuds between the Star Lords, I'm guessing.
The System Lords.
Man.
Yeah.
It's like I'm just watching this for the first time and having a hard time remembering this stuff or something.
Gosh, Jeff, we already told you about this. How do you not remember?
There was one episode, like 6 episodes ago, where they said System Lord.
How did you not grasp this? They already told you.
But it was pretty awesome. Daniel flexed with horror. I can't even say his name. Horror.
Do you remember when we last saw Horror? This is not your first time seeing him.
It was not too long ago that we saw him.
Thor's Chariot.
That's the one. Mm-hmm.
He was the guy who invaded Samaria and was building those ships. Do you remember his mom? Did you catch his mom? Jeff, they told us who his mom was. How do you not know this? It was in the show. You should be paying attention.
I should be. I might have fallen asleep.
Okay, guilty. Okay. It literally happens for like half of a second. Like Hathor. His mom's Hathor.
Oh, yeah. I'd be pretty angry. But it was fascinating. Daniel's like, dude, enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? We don't like this Apophis guy. And we just saw that Gould arrogance, just like, no, are you kidding me? I'm going to ally with ants. What about you, Brent, in this one? Did you find any sci-fi messages?
I did, but before we get there, though, I got a couple of things I want to run through before we do that. One, couple of notes that I just kind of some behind the scenes background stuff. Okay. We already talked about how the girl who plays Sharae/Amonette is Michael Shanks' wife in real life, and that she really was pregnant in this episode with his child. That child's name would go on to become like Tatiana or something like that, I think is her name. Was a girl, not a boy. Michael Shanks tells us a story at the cons talking about the scene where she goes into labor and he's like helping deliver birth, which, by the way, we didn't have any Daniel deaths in this episode. We didn't have any For Crying Out Louds either. But maybe we should start counting how many times Daniel has to help somebody give birth, because this is the second time we've seen it in the show. And the movie references a time where he had to do it before then. So yeah, but so they would get to a spot where they would yell cut, and like they're in between takes and they're having to reset and stuff. And he would turn around and start talking to the baby, being like, no, don't really come out yet. Like, stay in. We're not ready for you yet.
Wait till he says action. Like,
also, just remember this particular moment here when in a couple of weeks, if possibly, Michael Shanks should just kind of disappear from the show for a week or two.
might be a thing.
He might have had something going on in real life,
Was that their first kid?
Yeah.
Honestly, like, it makes sense. You and I have both been in the delivery room as our children were brought into the world. And the way he was kind of taking care of her, that is not how it goes down in there.
No, but you also are in a room full of a ton of other people who know what they're doing, and you're just standing there going, I don't even know what to do with my hands.
Daniel was yelling at her.
Well,
calm down. Just push. Come on.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, not okay.
The other note I had from the show, this is probably a top 3 reference for me that I love. Jack's joke about there being another O'Neill with one L, and he has no sense of humor. That is actually a reference to the Kurt Russell Jack O'Neill from the movie, who, if you remember, I told you in the movie, he was fresh off the death of his son. He was very stoic and very whatever. And Richard Dean Anderson, when they approached him to do the show, he had an entirely different take on Jack. He had this snarky, this comedic, this kind of deal. It is true in the movie, O'Neill is spelled with one L, and in the show it is spelled with 2 L's.
Okay.
It is true, and I don't know if they did that like kind of a Nick Locarno, Tom Paris thing, so they didn't have to pay the guy. I don't know. It's clearly the same guy. Maybe it's just a typo or something, or maybe they just changed it for this particular joke right here. But it is the reference back to there's that other guy, and he has no sense of humor. Like totally a reference to the Kurt Russell Jack O'Neill. So, Jeff, I'd like to introduce a brand new segment here.
Oh,
On Stargate SG-1 for the first time. It occurs to me as we're going through all these mythologies, we're hearing all these names of gods and goddesses and stuff. It might be nice to at least understand who these people are in real Earth mythology, as the show is completely retconning what they are. So today I would like to welcome you into history according to Brent. Amonette. Let's talk about Amonette. There's Apophis, there's Ra, there's Harrower, there's Hathor. We'll talk about those people at various times. But today we met Amonette, so let's talk about Amonette. Amonette is a real Egyptian goddess that was worshipped pretty much throughout the entire history of Egypt, including the Ptolemaic period, which, if you don't know, that was really at the end of the ancient Egypt period, when the Greeks had taken over and they basically were installing their own pharaohs. They were Greek pharaohs. Cleopatra was the last of the Ptolemaic pharaohs. We are closer to them than they were to the building of the pyramids.
that's wild.
In time. Yeah, it's so wild. And so it's really pretty much the Greek. So she is a staple of the Egyptian pantheon. In fact, one of the Ptolemaic pharaohs, Philip of Macedon, such a Greek name, had statues of himself suckling at the breast of Amunet to show that he, is blessed and of the God, he is the God King Pharaoh and is of that whatever weird bloodline. Anyway, she and her male counterpart, Amun, so she is Amunet and he is Amun, along with 3 other couples, so there's 8 altogether, are a sort of separate little subset of their gods called the Ogdod, which basically these guys were the ones who existed before time began.
Okay.
They call them the primordial gods and goddesses, the primeval gods and goddesses. This is before everybody else, right? Now, you've heard of Amun before. Amun-Ra, you probably are familiar with a little bit of Egyptian history. You also know the name King Tutankhamun.
Okay.
And she is the female counterpart to Amun. Now, as mythologies grow and change and evolve, Amunet is going to be replaced by another goddess, a different goddess, not the same one with just a new name. Her name was Mut, and she is the spouse of Amun, but the real history of that is Amunet is Amun's counterpart. And even though she was replaced, she still was just this constant presence, like I said, throughout the entirety of Egyptian history. We see her all the way back in writings in the pyramids, as I said, all the way to the Ptolemaic. And finally, in keeping with the episode title, you're going to love this, Jeff. This is the first time we've ever heard her name. We didn't know what Share's name was.
Yeah.
The name Amunut itself means hidden one or secret one.
Oh.
For the episode called Secrets.
Called Secrets. Yeah. While she's hidden away on Abydos.
Other than that, I really couldn't find anything that talked about like what she did as much as she was just there. Like if you think of like, what the Titans were to Greek mythology?
Yeah. They're like the
parents of the gods.
Of everybody. Yeah.
Well, these guys would be like the great grandparents of the gods. That is Amunet. And that is your edition of History According to... All right. Yeah, there you go. Did you enjoy that? What do you think?
I did. I like that. It's kind of, I learned a lot of new stuff. I didn't know that.
I'm not trying to pad the show and make it even longer. It seems poignant to the point. We're not going to have these every single week for sure. So, but just as it comes up, it seems fun. All right. We talked about lessons. What is the message? What are the sci-fi messages that Stargate is trying to put out there? Part of having to do this right off the cuff means that a lot of times these are a little bit unbaked. So I think where I come down to it is, here's the message. And I'm gonna chalk this one up to the how to be better to each other category of the good sci-fi message, which is this: say the things that need to be said, like the actual words that need to be said. And I'm really gonna look towards Teal'c for all 3 of these examples. I loved when Teal'c finally had a little almost semi-private meeting with Share. He was in the tent. Daniel was out moping. I think he was there with Kasuf, and Kasuf is like, she's like, Daniel doesn't love me. And he's like, no, he loves you so much. And he turns around and they talk for a minute, and he goes, yeah, I was there when you were taken by that Gould. And for my part, I can only ask for your forgiveness. And what I loved was Teal'c said the words, I ask for your forgiveness. So many times when we are trying to say, I'm sorry, the thing that we fail to say is, will you forgive me? You can say, I'm sorry. People, it's okay, whatever. But there's a different power in saying, I ask for your forgiveness. Will you forgive me? There's a different power in what that does, how that releases a person from their indebtedness, their sin against you, whatever it is. Like Teal'c can't undo what's been done. He gets that. He is working. Teal'c is working to atone for it. He's trying to stop it from ever happening again. But yet he still says, will you forgive me? Because that's not enough. He is doing what he should do, but it's not enough. He actually needs to the received forgiveness. It's a good thing to say. We talked about this a little bit during the episode, but in like the very next scene, Teal'c goes out and he's having a conversation with Daniel. And he and Daniel over the last year have developed a rapport. They've developed a bank account. They're on a team. They trust each other. They depend on each other for their lives. They got a relationship. Teal'c goes off on Daniel.
Yeah.
And not in a nice way. He doesn't sit down and say, okay, can I have a talk with you? Hey, so the way you're doing this here, I don't really love that for you. You're doing this. You really, no. He is like, you are being an effing flarging idiot. What is wrong with you? You don't do this, and here's what's going to happen, and here's how you. And he says, you're just feeling sorry for yourself. That woman in there needs you right now, and you're out here moping. What are you doing? You are not helping the situation. And Daniel just sits there, and it's not that he takes it, but he receives it. You know, and Teal'c just like he owned up. Now, in that situation, I think Teal'c was drawing on a lot of the bank account he and Daniel had developed over the years. But he said it. It was what Daniel needed to hear to shake him out of his complacency, so he could go turn around and go, you know what? I need a moment with my wife alone. Yeah, you do.
You needed that a while ago, but go get it now.
And Teal'c just stands there, real stoic, right?
There you go, dude. Yes.
But then the other one I see is later in the episode, and this isn't so much saying the words, although it is the words he said, but then it's what he backed it up to go do. When Daniel is insisting he's not leaving Sha're, they're in hiding, they're kind of trapped, and Teal'c's like, yo, dude, Harrower is going to get here. He's going to find us. We got to go. And Daniel's like, I'm not leaving her. And Teal'c's like, yeah, but, and Daniel goes, I'm not leaving her. And Teal'c goes, okay, then I'm going to do what needs to be done to protect you. And he goes off and he does what needs to be done. I love that moment because, again, it's a part of that bank account. It's a part of that trust, the teamwork, the teammate piece. And he says, okay, then I'll do what needs to be done. He hears it, he accepts it, he receives it, and he goes off, and Teal'c is just a true friend.
Yeah.
All the way through. And I think these are great examples of how we can do that. Are there other messages that could be pulled out? We talked about Sam and her dad and what that looks like. You probably could look at that if I had more time to really think about this and dig it out and go back and rewatch the episode again. There's probably a great juxtaposition between how Teal'c and Daniel operate and even Daniel and Sha're versus Sam and her dad.
As you were saying that, like, there's that thing over there. I'm like, no, I think it totally falls into the say what needs to be said category, because this is what it looks like when you don't.
And I think that's there. Now, here's the question. Is that in the intent of the episode? No. But I think the writer of this episode saw the opportunity that was in front of him or her. I think it was a him. And they seized it. And they said, I'm going to Teal'c is going to come in and say what needs to be said. And he's going to do it throughout the thing. And then we're going to see Sam. And I do think that there is, I think it's just part of how you write a good story. You set up this piece, you throw it in there. Are they writing this for the intent of showing this as the message? Probably not. I think this is more plot point. I'm not telling you that this episode is going to have major ramifications later on down the road, but I know what comes up later on down the road.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And I think it does. I think it clearly is going to have it set up a lot of stuff. Sure.
And it came, I mean, and not just, you called out the Jacob thing, but you know, there's more to come for sure. So I do think that this was the intent, maybe not the intent of the episode, but the opportunity was there and the writer did the good writer thing and wrote it in. Good sci-fi message, good, strong, all the way there. Jeff, I'm giving this one four chevrons.
Wow.
You're surprised I didn't say 5, right?
No, I would.
Oh, it was a little high?
I think so. I mean, I think it was a little high.
Okay.
I think I don't disagree with anything you said. I think there was a little bit of, he spread that butter real generously on the bread. Like it was a little pat that you got spread out all the way, pretty thin, a little thin, but it's there. It's there. I'm not going to argue that, you know, I mean, everything you said is definitely there. So you're rating.
I was going to say, I could be convinced. I could be convinced to go down at least a half a chevron. I'm going to leave it at 4 though. These completely subjective ratings that are set in stone.
They matter right now, and in 4 seconds they won't. But here's where I'll support your 4 chevrons.
Yeah.
I think it is the juxtaposition in the stories. We see 3 very different situations of this that play out. They're not like the Jake and Sam or the Sam and her dad thing. I don't think that's integral to the story, right? You know, at this point, at least, like that's just, you know, a thing. Whereas the other ones were, that's what got Daniel, you know, where he needed to be and stuff like that. But the fact that they were able to kind of give you the different views of that same thing, 4 chevrons is good.
And I definitely think if you really look at it, I think the title of this episode is perfect. You've got secrets. Sam has to keep secrets from her dad. Her dad's keeping secrets from her. And we see how that whole thing happens. Jack has to keep the secret of the Stargate program when he's going up against this reporter dude who, let's face it, he's not revealing his whole hand either. Who do you think is the guy who tipped off who do you think is the person that tipped off the reporter?
It's somebody in Kinsey's group, I think, Senator Kinsey.
Oh, I think it was Kinsey
Himself?
I think it was Kinsey himself. Yeah. I used to think that it was Mayborn. Do you remember Mayborn?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I used to think it was Mayborn, NID, but no, I think it is the fact that he deliberately talks about the $7 billion. I'm like, that's a Kinsey thing. That's what's going on here. Is Kinsey didn't get to shut them down. And so now he's trying to expose it. Yeah.
Coming at it a whole different way.
He just does not want whatever's about to happen. And, you know, somebody ran that. I don't know. I'm not so sure that it was an accident that ran that dude down.
I agree. That's why I think.
And I don't know that it was Kinsey's office that did that. I think that might have been Mayborn. That might have been Hammond in the SGC. Like,
just to kind of like, problem solved.
Yeah. So anyway, you have those secrets, but then you also have the secrets going on Abydos. You got, what is this? The secret mission of of Apophis, like to father this child and use this child as his future host. And what does that look like? What does that mean? Do you see the look that when Daniel looked at Teal'c and went, I've never known that. And Teal'c just kind of looks off into the distance like, oh. Amunet keeps the secret from Apophis at the end that they're sitting right there and stuff's happening. Like,
that was intense. Like that was hard eye contact she was making, and she's just like, it's cool.
Yeah, a lot of secrets. I'm not going to put those in the messages piece though. But yeah, I'm on 4 chevrons, Jeff.
It's a good call out.
Listen, we spent a lot of time talking about a rating. You know what's actually more important and is worth more of a discussion and more criticism, to be frank, is the ranking. And Jeff, it falls to you, my friend, to put this episode in our absolutely 100% completely definitive season 2 ranking of Stargate SG-1. Our current top 5, just for whatever it's worth, is Serpent's Grasp and Serpent's Lair. Number 2 is Thor's Chariot. Number 3 is In the Line of Duty. Number 4 is Message in a Bottle. Number 5 is Need. Jeff, I've got a feeling I think I know where you're going to place this one, but where do you place this episode? Secrets.
You know, it's hard because sometimes when you have to do the duty to make something happen, and I was working way too hard just to say duty.
You just did it twice though. Good job.
I'm gonna say it a few more times actually. But this was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. We've had a couple really good ones. I'll say the top 3 specifically, but even number 4, and Message in a Bottle, is good episodes.
That's the one with the ball shooting the spikes out. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that. You weren't as high on it as I was.
I've never have been on that one. Yeah.
I thought it was a cool story. But to me, this one really does fall in kind of a duty place.
Yeah.
In that I think it's really the new number 2. Yep.
Wow, Jeff.
I worked really hard to get here's the thing. Before you were doing the intro and I looked at it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be in the number 2 slot. And then I'm like, I've got to work that into duty somehow. So
perfect, Jeff. Perfect. I cannot, this is why I'm so glad that I get to do this. I get to partner with you and do this, man. This is amazing.
This is what we do.
I may have just woken up people downstairs because it's late at night for me, right?
Well, sometimes when things get funny and you do the thing, it gets hilarious and it gets a little loud.
You just said do again.
I did.
All right, Jeff. Well, that's going to do it for secrets. Would you like to know what we're watching next time?
Yeah.
Jeff, this is one of those episodes. You're going to know what this episode's about. I'll give you a hint. This is one of those episodes every sci-fi show does.
It narrows it down, so thank you.
If I was doing this beam me up style, this would be a leave it off the list episode.
Okay. Because it's the story's well known.
That doesn't mean it's a bad episode. It just means integral to everything. Not really. Name of the episode is called Bane. Jeff, what do you think Bane might be about? I gave you hints.
Bane?
Bane. Yeah. B-A-N-E. Bane. Not anything having to do with Batman.
Yeah, I was going to say this was 98. So we were living in a very different Batman world at that time.
Yes. That Batman had nipples.
He did. I think Bane, like Bane of my existence, kind of a thing. So
yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I feel like we've watched in a couple of episodes Teal'c show up as a buddy, right? In Message in a Bottle, it was him and O'Neill. Here, we saw him and Daniel. So this is where it's going to have to happen on the other side. Teal'c is going to get, I always say captured. It's so dumb. He's going to get hurt somehow, and he's going to have to come to terms. Here it is. They're going to be on whatever mission, and he's going to come face to face with like people that he's hurt as a Jaffa.
We've already done that one. It's called Korai.
Well, it's going to be a little different though.
Okay. He's not going on trial this time.
Exactly. No, this time it's just an interpersonal thing for him. He's hating on himself, right? This is he just asked Shah-Ra for forgiveness. He's going to come face to face with some other damage that he did. This is going to be him working through his stuff around what he did. And it's going to mean like he's going to be down on himself, and it's going to be Daniel or Jack. They get to repay that friendship thing to Teal'c in this one. So it's going to be a Teal'c episode, and I think it's going to really build on his friendships with the SG team.
Well, I can promise you that Teal'c is in the episode.
Oh, that's good.
I can promise you that. You're a good guesser, Jeff.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Folks, that's going to do it for us right here on Stargate SG-1 for the first time. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure. We love you guys hanging out with us, joining us, whether you're on the audio podcast and you're skipping into the future every week, or whether you're joining us on YouTube, watching the reaction along with our discussion following this, or maybe you're even one of those folks who join us on Patreon, getting the full unedited version, whatever level you're at. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We very much appreciate it. Please don't forget, whatever level you are, whatever platform you get this show in, please subscribe, like, leave comments, leave ratings, leave reviews, all that sort of stuff, and share this episode, share this podcast, share this YouTube channel with someone that you know who likes Stargate SG-1, or maybe somebody who, like my friend Jeff over there, needs to get into the gate. With that, folks, I'm going to say thank you. And on behalf of my friend Jeff over there, good night. And we will see you next time. So long, folks.
Hey, Brent.
Hey, Jeff.
Look at me. Brent, look at me. I love you.
Oh, Jeff. For crying out loud. And by history, according to Brent, I mean Wikipedia.